Hi, this is Andrew Bryant. Got my espresso here, and it's been a long time since I have done a LinkedIn Live. I messaged yesterday or did a post yesterday that I would be doing this live because I did a 3-hour assertive leadership program for a bank in Brunei. And one of the questions from a participant was how to deal with arrogant people. And there was a real energy around this question, and I answered the question. And I think my answer might surprise you. Before I share with you how to deal with arrogant people, um, I wonder if that's a problem for you and whether you want that solution. I wanted to share how we got to that point. And remember, this was a 3-hour program on assertive leadership to a bank in Brunei being part of Asia. And I shared with the audience that when I moved from Australia to Asia nearly 20 years ago, my friend said to me, Andrew, you're moving to Asia, you better learn to be humble. And I said, excuse me, learn to be humble? How arrogant do you think I am? And they said, oh, you're not arrogant, but you're confident. And I said, well, from my research, my understanding, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is when you know that what you're capable of, you know your talents, you know your skills, you know your strengths, and you have confidence in them. Confidence is I've done it before, I'm doing it now, and therefore, if I've done it, it's not bragging. So arrogance, on the other hand, is that behavior that you think that you're better than other people. You look down on other people, and arrogant behavior makes other people feel not okay. So that's the definition here. And I shared with the audience that really humility is not about making yourself smaller. Humility is having an accurate, neither overestimated nor underestimated view of your own abilities. If you're humble, you are grounded. In fact, the word humility comes from the Latin humilitas, which gives us the word humus, which means ground. So if you are humble, you are grounded in your area of expertise. And I talk a lot about this kind of humility when I do my programs on executive presence, the ability to project gravitas and confidence and poise under pressure. So in a program on assertive leadership, we had to define assertive. And it's interesting that a lot of people think that arrogance and aggression go together. Arrogant people are aggressive, and there's a strong correlation between those two. And so people think that there's, and hey, Saga from India, thanks for joining me. So a lot of people think that they have this choice between being aggressive or being passive. And in terms of communication and leadership, aggressive communication or aggressive leadership is a clear request for your needs, wants, and beliefs in a way that gives no room or consideration for other people's needs, wants, and beliefs. So that's aggressive. Here's what I want. Here's what I need. Here's what I believe. And the subtext of that is I don't give a hoot what you think, need, or believe. And this is clearly aggressive and selfish and potentially arrogant because it is not considering the perspectives of other people. Passive communication, on the other hand, of course, is what do you need? What do you want? What do you believe? In a way that you're meeting those needs. The problem with passive communication and passive leadership, of course, is that it flips. It is a sad reality that the troubled young people that create high school shootings in North America are not aggressive. They are the passive student who has been bullied and not had a voice and found the only way to express themselves was through armed conflict or through using a weapon. So passivity is not sustainable. And of course, it leads to passive aggressiveness. People won't say anything, but they will quietly sabotage whatever's going on in an organization. Now, the reality is that it's not just a choice between the two. It's not either or. There is a middle path. As the Buddha would say, find the middle path. And the middle path is being assertive. And assertive is a clear communication of your needs, wants, and beliefs in such a way that encourages the other to share their needs, wants, and beliefs. And this actually is humility, because humility, over and above just having an accurate, neither overestimated nor underestimated view of your own ability, humility is the ability to consider other people's perspectives as equally valid as your own. And that's the kicker. A lot of people who say that they're humble are humble only if you agree with them, only if you agree with their philosophy or their theology. In my group coaching call, which I do every morning at 8 o'clock, every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock Singapore time, those people who join me for group coaching, one of our participants, an Indian who is living in the United States, shared the success he's now having with inviting his team to share their perspectives. His leadership style had always been around, well, I know what's right, do this. And he's discovering he's getting absolute gold and gems from listening to other people's perspective. And hi, Ilyas from Singapore. Welcome to the live. So here we have this. Humility is accurate. I know what I know, right? So it's about self, and it's about the considering of other people's perspectives, and that we have the opportunity for assertive communication. That's what I spent 3 hours training and coaching these bank executives in Brunei. So the question comes, since I talked about arrogance, how do you deal with arrogant people? Now, that wasn't the purview of the program. The purview of the program is for the participants to step up into their assertiveness so that they can clearly communicate their needs, wants, and beliefs, and in such a way that encourages others. So how do you deal with arrogant people? Well, if you think about arrogance, arrogance is often connected to what we would call egos type behavior, right? Arrogant people seem to be pushing their agenda, their self. So they seem egotistical. And I think you need to understand a little bit about ego, because I'm an author, a researcher on the topic of self-leadership. So I'm actually very pro having a strong ego. Hi, Manish from Mauritius. So I'm really a fan of a strong ego, and most people are surprised by this. And to explain it, I use this example. If you go outside any five-star hotel, you'll see the posh cars that are parked by the valets, the Lamborghinis, the Maseratis, the Porsches. And you've probably seen or can imagine the following scenario. The guy drives up in his Lamborghini, revs the engine, gets out, and dismissively throws his keys to the valet and moves into the hotel. And the question for my audience is, does this guy have a big ego or a small ego? Think about it. Now, the majority of people will say a big ego, and I have a contrary view around this. I actually think he's got a small ego, but he's engaging in egotistical or egocentric behaviors. So the distinction here is people engage in egotistical behaviors to feed a weak ego. When you know who you are, you have a strong sense of self, you have self-leadership, you don't care what other people think about you. Now, you might have reputation management. Of course, what you think about me does impact my business and influence around the world, but it doesn't impact me as a human being, right? I know who I am. I've done the work. I've done the self-awareness, the self-discovery, and I've seen my light side, my dark side. And I'm okay with who I am. Am I perfect? No. I have nothing to prove. I have lots of things to improve. And this is something I share with my coaching clients. I have nothing to prove, only things to improve. Thank you, Patricia, for agreeing me on this point. And it's a great mantra. Whereas the egotistical person, the person who needs to feed their ego, is constantly looking for other people to validate them. Look at me, tell me how good I am. And they demand that in that aggressive behavior. Here's what I need. Here's what I want. I need recognition. I need validation. I need power. And this comes from an ego that's weak. And they build that ego with their purchases, the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, the Maserati. Or they build it, with the watch or the handbag that is establishing their power play. Now, I have nothing against nice cars, nice watches. If you can afford it, that's what you want. I have no problem. But what is the reason behind it? See, the person with a strong ego could go to that very hotel and turn up in jeans and a t-shirt, walk in. They don't care whether anybody recognizes them or knows. They care that they're a human being and they respect the staff exactly the same way. I love the mandate from I think it was Muhammad Ali who said, I don't trust somebody who's nice to me but is rude to the waiter. So to the topic at hand, how do we deal with arrogant people? Well, arrogant people are needy. Arrogant people need their egos fed. They need ego food. Actually, Avi, hi for jumping on. He's absolutely on the same wavelength as I am. Arrogant people need ego food. And we've seen this with people saying, I'm the best. I'm the one that knows everything. And they surround themselves with sycophants who feed them the information they want to sustain this fragile ego. They surround themselves. So if you deal with arrogant people, give them what they need. It's like a child who is screaming for the lollipop, right? Or their breakfast cereal. If you give it to them, they shut up, right? Give them what they need. And realizing that giving them what they need rarely costs you anything as long as you know who you are. So if you've built your sense of self, you've worked on your self-esteem, your self-confidence, you're projecting your own executive presence, if you give them what they need, you give them the spotlight, you acknowledge what they contribute, it don't cost you anything, and their ego is settled down. Now, I know there's a contrary point to this. If you give the child in the supermarket the ice cream when they scream, you're setting up a recurring behavior. But in this case, the arrogant person, you are not their coach, probably. You are not their mummy. You are not their daddy. It's not your responsibility to change them, right? In the workplace, trying to be the therapist to your boss or the therapist to a colleague it's going to end in, it's not going to be pretty, all right? If you try and change other people, right, what was it Mahatma Gandhi said? Be the change you want to see in the world. So by you calmly and assertively communicating your needs, wants, and beliefs in ways that allow others to communicate their needs and wants and beliefs respectfully, then you establish the boundary, you establish the norm. And if an arrogant person, you need to pay them a compliment or you need to give them what they want periodically, and it keeps them quiet, you are keeping an egotistical child at bay. And that's how you handle them. Now, you do, with this, need to maintain strong boundaries. You need to know who you are, because if their needs, wants, and beliefs infringe upon your personal liberties, then we have to say, no, this is the boundary. This is me. This is you. This is me. This is my thoughts, my feelings, my actions. This is me. That is you. So you may have to establish boundaries, and that takes a little bit of self reflection. Where is my boundary? I'm British by birth, so the British people need a lot of personal space. Have you ever seen them on the beach, right? They'll lay down their towel on the beach and they've captured that bit of the beach for England. They need a lot of personal space. And be like the British with your psychological space. Make sure you're not allowing other people inside your head, inside the 9 inches between your ears. That piece of real estate is the most powerful real estate, or the most expensive real estate perhaps, that you will ever own. So, in conclusion, how do you deal with arrogant people? Is you just accept there are arrogant people. All right? Your job is not to change everybody. Your job is to be the best version of you. And being the best version of you, you give permission and encouragement for others to be the best version of themselves. And this is the heart of self-leadership, which I write about. You may or may not know, I've written 2 books on the topic. It's what I coach about. And if you're interested in coaching by me or by me for somebody within your organization, I have a free masterclass that it's about 15 minutes, but I think it's worth your time to think about how we can be the best version of ourselves as a leader in an organization. And for that, it's very simple. The URL is masterclass, one word, .selfleadership, my URL, .com. All right, masterclass.selfleadership.com. Check that out. And at the end of that, if there's a fit and you want to connect with me for some of my coaching, then you and I will be having a conversation. If this was valuable to you in terms of my LinkedIn Live, please leave a comment, share it with your friends, and that encourages me to carve out the time and go live here on LinkedIn. So it's Andrew Bryant wishing you a fantastic day. Don't worry about arrogant people. They have their journey. You live your best life.